Hi, everybody. It's Alex Jarett with the Technology Executives Club. And today we're going to do another Technology Executives Review leadership segment. And you can watch all of our stuff at technologyexecutivesclub.com. We're also on Apple and Spotify and YouTube under Technology Executives Review. And today's topic is a digital transformation framework. I'm really pleased to introduce you to Elaine Cartier, just like the jewelry, right, Elaine?
That's right.
That's right. And she's senior director, basically head of all digital transformation at Ciena. You've done this at Ciena, you've done this at CDW, you've done this at multiple other companies. So you're legitimately a digital transformation expert. So we're really happy to have you here. So I'm going to turn the screen off so we could just talk. And I know we've got a couple questions for everybody, and this is a leadership session. And Elaine is on our board of advisors. Elaine, thank you for doing that. And what that means is that she's really a board of advisor to all of you listening or watching, and just to help you. And digital transformation, God, when did it come onto the world? Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago? I mean, transformation's been around for a long time, but when did that term, digital transformation, show up? Do you remember even?
I think it was probably maybe 10, 15 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah.
And back then it's still kind of just starting, and now it's part of everyday vocabulary, at least in my world.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember doing the conferences and back then, and all of a sudden, digital transformation became a thing. We did a bunch of digital transformation conferences. Just like now, if I would do a conference, I do an AI conference, obviously, because that's the hot thing. So you have a framework for digital transformation. Just as an aside, you've got just about 20 years doing this. We went through a whole interview. We went through your career. Everybody that's watching this should go to Elaine's webpage on our site, her landing page, and check out that interview. It's really great. But you actually have done digital transformation for multiple companies for the back end processes as well as the front end processes. Now you're doing all kinds of cool stuff with digital twinning and supply chain. I mean, you've really done every ecosystem in most types of companies. So over time, you told me through the interviews that you've created a framework for digital transformation. Tell us more about that. What is this digital transformation framework that you've been talking about?
Thanks, Alex, for the opportunity. Again, always great talking to you. So maybe we could go back a little bit about what does digital transformation really mean?
Hmm.
And then we could dive into the framework a little bit,
That makes
because
sense.
digital transformation could have different definition for people. And to me, digital transformation means, is it making a bottom line or P&L impact for a company? So what I mean by that is it really making that step change so that we can articulate the value in our P&L? Is it reducing that cost? Is it increasing that revenue? Is it moving the needle on our business? There's
That makes
there's
sense.
there's a lot of enhancements, so to speak, that maybe people are making from a digital perspective. But transformation to me is definitely something that's a bigger and more of a step change from what they're doing today. And sometimes people ask me, why is this important?
Yeah.
And to me, it's important because we need to continue to transform and focus on how to be able to do our business better, more
Yeah.
efficient, and more productive. Because if we don't focus on that as a business, other people are, and they're going to win, and we're going to fall behind. So it's important to continue to leverage the technologies that are out there that we could take advantage of to create that competitive advantage for our
Hmm.
company, to create that step change or P&L impact for our company, and then also helping our employees to be able to do their jobs easier. So there's that human side of it again.
Hmm.
And I know Alex, you and I talk a lot about human
Yeah.
side of transformation. So that to me is extremely important to how do we help our teams' lives? How do we improve their lives, make it more easier, better work-life balance, and therefore maybe better retention and engagement, and then the company again will be better at winning. So those are some of the key elements on why I think digital transformation is very important.
What I'm hearing is, and I've heard this before from some other folks, there's got to be a business reason to do it. That's number one. And what could that be? It could be more revenue. It could be more efficiency or effectiveness and more profit. So you're either saving money or bringing more money in, or and then also, it's a better experience for the employee and the customer, right? Am I hearing that right? Those are some of the big reasons why you do this kind of thing. And so that it doesn't even matter if it's digital or not. We just happen to be talking about digital transformations. I don't know if you knew this, when I was younger, my family owned an A&W restaurant.
Oh,
And
really?
yep, yeah, yeah. And the reason I bring this up is like, why is he talking about that? The reason, because I need a root beer right now, that's why. But the reason besides that, I took a management class there, and they talked about changing your menu. And a lot of people would think, oh, if I keep adding stuff to the menu, we'll increase the profits in the restaurant. And they made it very clear in the training, just because you add an item to your menu doesn't mean you're going to bring in profits. You have to decide or realize, are you adding another sandwich or breakfast, for example, to bring in more revenue? Or are you just shifting from something they would have bought anyways? And
Yeah.
I always thought that was a good. It's the same thing that you're really saying, and you're saying in a much more advanced way, is there has to be a business objective for doing this transformation, right? I'm hearing that right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what takes to the key foundations of digital transformation. In order to ensure that the transformation is going to make an impact, whether it's increasing revenue or improving that customer employee experience or reducing cost,
Uh-huh.
first first step, you have to be able to identify the business problem. What is that problem you're trying to solve?
Hmm.
And therefore understand what the business impact or objective it would be that you're
Hmm.
trying to achieve. So once we can identify that business problem and do discovery on what is the benefit that we will gain from it, it helps us to prioritize what is one, two, three in terms of the projects or initiatives that we should go transform.
Hmm.
Because there are lots of ideas, there are lots of opportunities, and how do you really figure out or prioritize what's most important? It is by the business value. So first is understanding the business problem, figuring out what is the business value that
Hmm.
you will achieve if you implement either digital or business transformation capabilities
Hmm.
to solve that problem, and then be able to create that business case. So second step is creating that business case so that you understand all the elements of what you need to do in order to solve that problem from a
Hmm.
cost, timing, effort perspective. And in my experience, when we understand the business problem and objective, creating that business case,
Hmm.
that's when we could really take that to executive leadership and request the funding and get that approval, because without having that business case, it's really difficult for our business leaders or executive team to make investment into digital transformation. They're
Hmm.
expecting, well, why do you want to do this? What is the benefit? So really the third step is taking that business case to your executive leadership to get approval, to get buy-in, to align on the why and the what. And then you would be able to go and deliver. So the fourth step is also a very important step, is actually deliver and achieve that value.
Hmm.
So once you deliver, then the last step, the fifth step, is the measure of success. did you actually achieve what you said you were going to do in the very beginning of the project? And sometimes you may not, because while you're implementing, you might find more things or different things that was not anticipated. But an important thing is to measure that success at the end and ensuring that you are getting that value. If not, then we could continue to pivot and trying to figure out why. And underpinning this whole entire framework is change management with our users and or customers, depending on the transformation you're doing.
Right.
So change management is not something that you do at the end, it's really holistic across the entire process. Once you understand the problem, you understand the users that are impacted or the people that are impacted, then you need to start having conversations with those people to help them to understand the change, why we're changing, get their feedback, so that once the capability is delivered, there's much more probability that they're going to use it and actually execute, then you could achieve that business value.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. I mean, you make it sound all so straightforward. I think we're done. I think the videos, I think the recording's done. That's it. That's all you need to do, everybody.
It's very easy to talk about a framework, Alex.
Yeah, the framework is great. We're going to write the
hard work is actually doing it, right?
We're going to write the textbook, put you on the tour.
Yeah.
So, oh, okay. Yeah, so you got the 5 steps. So we're, you brought up change management, and I know that's a big part, but, there's a couple areas in there I want to ask you about. So ID in the problem, I get it. Business case, I get. I think that it's not straightforward, but people often ignore that. And I think I'm guessing the landmine there is it's the problem. You're leading with the business case and the problem, not with the technology. Although in AI's case, I think people are saying we have to experiment. There's a grand assumption with that just like there was when monitors came out, just like there was when the cell phone came out, the PC came out, that we have to start playing with it. So the business case there is we have to play with it, but that's a different thing. But for the most part, you're saying we've got to have that business case. There has to be buy-in from the business and from, I imagine, the team that's doing it and the people that are going to be affected by it at some level, right? So it is a whole, everybody, I'll say for Elaine, your degree was organizational psychology. And so you mentioned change management. Sounds almost synonymous. It seems to me like the trap would be identifying what that problem is and what the real return is actually going to be. And then being able to measure it later and then having the buy-in from everybody involved. So it really is a big people issue more than anything else. Sounds like to me.
Part of it is for sure. And when you talk about measuring success, what does success look like? In the more, I would call it traditional IT implementation, it might be counting features. Do we deliver these 5 features?
Yeah.
And yes, we did, and we checked them off. And that's what I call output of the project, which is still very important because without those features, you absolutely cannot get the value.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we also need to measure the outcome. And a lot of times we don't do that because it's too hard, or we didn't get the buy-in from the get-go, or we don't really understand how to calculate. Or so the hard work in the front end to figure all that out first will help articulate the business case or the reason why much easier, get that buy-in much easier at the leadership level and also at the user level.
Yeah.
And then also, I have found that in my experience that it's much easier to get funding when you could articulate the business value in the business case. Once you could also, then that allows you to track it after the project is done. And once you could track and demonstrate that there's real money there that you have achieved, then it's much easier to then you're going to get that credibility, get that trust from your leadership team, and they're going to listen to you. They're going to open that door to you even sooner or better the next time. So I'll give an example, Alex.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
I say transformation is not necessarily always a big idea that comes from the leadership team or consultants or having to do a big huge discovery in order to get there. Sometimes the best ideas come from the people in the front line because they deal with whatever that problem is on a daily basis. Sometimes they already have created what I call MVP because they have to figure out a minimal viable product because they have to figure out how to manage this problem with the tools that they have.
Yeah.
So the example is in one of the projects that I did, and I always use this as an example because it is one of the best transformation projects in my experience. There was an idea that came from a freight manager who said, if we actually use our freight account instead of our customer's freight account, we could save a lot more freight savings because we have a much bigger volume. So our freight pricing is a lot better than our customers or suppliers when we're shipping goods to them or when our suppliers are shipping goods to us. So he developed a analysis model to showcase why this is better and took real logistics data and calculated out if we use our freight account for these customers or suppliers, and this is how much we would save. So I said, yes, let me help you. So the investment to help him to be able to identify who those customers are, who those suppliers are, was mere 50 grand. But the payback was in millions. And I was able to,
every year, probably.
Every year, yes.
Yeah.
And I was able to identify along with him, to hey, let's figure out this business case. Let's calculate it out.
Who is that payback to you or the customers or both of you, really? Right.
To the company. So not to the customer per se, but to us, to my company at that time, because we're paying a certain level of freight and then we're charging the customer that freight. So we're not making money over the freight, but then so I guess, to your point, it also benefited the customer because the freight reduced. And so we were able to reduce that freight cost.
That's a big idea. It doesn't sound like it at first, but it's really a big idea.
Yeah. And so now, the reporting is automated to identify those opportunities that we could reduce freight. And of course, there's negotiation and process that has to happen in order to make that happen. But the process is well known. It's documented. It is leveraged. It's executed. And with a small investment, we're able to save millions. And that, to me, is not a big, huge IT implementation of the technology. It's about transforming a process and implement a new idea. So it's so that transformation example is something that I use all the time, and it's I wish we had more ideas like that.
That's a great example because I think, when you hear the word digital transformation, you think of, oh my God, we're going to change everything. But when you're dealing with these really big enterprises, you don't have to change everything. It doesn't have to be, we're not always talking about innovation. We're talking about transformation, right? So it doesn't have to be the big idea. So what are some other examples of some successful projects? Maybe I know that was one you wanted to share. Is there any other examples just to illustrate the point?
Yeah. So another successful transformation that I could talk about is in my current company, we are improving our overall supply chain processes and capabilities because we are on a journey of developing that digital twin for supply chain.
That's so cool.
And it's, in the beginning, people didn't really know what that means, and
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't either. But with a lot of research and getting out to talk to people like yourself, Alex, and the peers in the technology group, um, developing this digital twin is definitely not something that's easy.
No.
The success that we've had is to be able to implement a technology called Connexus in our space, and start to get different planning groups onboarded to this technology, so that we have one source of truth, we have one database, we have one definition and governance around the data set, so that the planning teams could be speaking the same language and have visibility to all the data that they need in one technology.
Now,
So
this is when you say one source of truth, we're talking about things like where are these parts? How much does it cost to get from A to B? Things like that, right? Is that what we're talking about? Because I hear this a lot when I talk to data people, that there are silos of information and people don't have one source of truth. Like, how much did this piece really cost? Is that what we're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about? Things
So
like that. Are you manufacturer? What does Ciena do? You're a
Ciena, yeah, we're a telecommunications company. We make
uh-huh.
products
Oh, you do
that
make
that
product. Okay.
yeah, we do.
And
And
you distribute it.
so,
You make and distribute it.
and yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All
Yeah,
right.
so when I say one source of truth, it could
Yeah.
be those elements that you're talking about. And on top of that would be, well, where are my orders? Where are my purchase orders from the suppliers? When are
Yeah.
they due? And where are my customer orders? Where are my production orders? So it is to that's the concept of a control tower, digital twin, is to be able to have visibility to not only the Ciena ecosystem within our supply chain,
Right.
but having visibility of our tier one suppliers, tier two
Oh
suppliers,
my God, that's so cool.
so that we can start seeing what is happening in our extended supply chain, I'll call it.
So will
So
you be
our
able
own
to,
supply chain extended.
I'm sorry, I'm so excited about this idea. So will you be like able to visually see it all on one big wall? Or is it more like different screens that you got to turn on, or both?
Yeah, so we're on that journey to get to that big one screen wall. So
How cool is that?
this is a bit like futuristic,
It
but
is like
it is
movies.
real. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Minority Report. Have you seen that
Yeah.
movie
Only
where
10
Tom Cruise,
times. Yeah.
moving around the stuff? And that's real, because that's real now, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Um, Technologies are available now to help people to be able to create insights and make recommendations on what it is that they should go execute in order to
Absolutely.
risk or capture an opportunity. So it is real. And by implementing our systems or data into one source of truth, ability to be able to see that all on the screen is the foundation of that. And Alex, you talked about AI earlier.
Yeah.
Having that all the data in one place, it's not possible to really leverage the AI technology. So we're on the road of getting to that, one big board that you're talking about.
Well, if you have the one big board and you have all the data coming in, that's where you can start having AI help you analyze the data
Yes,
and
right.
say, uh-oh, just like in cybersecurity, where they're just looking for anomalies.
Yes, that's
It's
right.
like,
Looking at exceptions.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, like, uh-oh, why is this guy logging on at 3 o'clock in the morning from Istanbul? That doesn't
Yes,
seem right.
right. Exactly.
We know
That,
he
that,
lives in Carmel, Indiana,
yeah, exactly.
and he
It's
works at the
allowing
plant.
Yeah, it's allowing our team to be able to see those exceptions in
Yeah.
real time and quickly, and be able to drill in and see what's happening. And then, oh, by the way, it'll have recommendations on what you need to do to resolve that risk.
And that goes all the way through to the factory floor and scheduling the factory floor deliveries, the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's so cool. I
Yeah.
don't know which is more exciting. Everybody does. Not everybody knows. Maybe you could share this if you want. But you did the work at CDW when CDW was one of the first to start doing really integrating their sales process with the website and the phones and everything. But I'm not sure which is more exciting. The online stuff where you see people buying everything like an Amazon kind of thing. That's what you were building, the
Yeah.
precursor to Amazon. But now you're talking about the whole system that makes it, that buys the parts, makes it, and then delivers it.
I think you're hitting on the reason why I love this space,
Yeah.
because whether it's the customer experience online and be able to bring that, integrating the sales experience online and deliver that to the customer, or working on supply chain that is allowing our team to be able to be much more efficient and productive and be able to mitigate risks. I think they're all very exciting. And that's why I love this space.
You need to put like a pen in your ear and carry around your tablet that has the whole world on it all the time. And you
Oh
can
my
go like,
gosh.
and we can go, that'll be your thing. Look, oh, here's our ecosystem here. Oh, Istanbul's down.
There you go. Yeah, that would be so cool. That would be so cool.
I think you're gonna get there.
Yeah,
Where's
absolutely.
Elaine? We
We're
need
gonna get
Elaine.
there.
I can see the president. I want to talk about another topic real quick. We hadn't planned on this, but I was thinking about the role of the CIO, the role of technology. What you're talking about is actually, it makes sense for people like you to be, running as COO, not just CIO, but a CIO, COO, CIO, CTO, COO role. Because if once you implement this system, you're basically running the, you personally aren't, but the system combined with the employees are running the company, are running the day-to-day systems of the company. And it makes sense for someone like you that's built it to run it if you want to, if you choose to, or you can just go out and build another thing. But do you see the vision that I'm seeing? I'm hearing this more and more from people as the ecosystems of technology are running the companies, or technology is part of the ecosystem running companies, along with
Right.
people, along with
Right.
people. In fact, I think it makes more sense. Now, a lot of people think as technology leaders as, oh, they're techies and all this other stuff, which may have been true when IBM first came out and everybody had the calculators and the pocket protectors and all that stuff. But nowadays, every time I talk to a technology leader like yourself, we always end up talking about people. But when you and I were talking, we had your spotlight interview, and I kind of joke with you, we could be talking about AI, you'd be bringing up people. And so I want to give you the opportunity to talk about that because that was one of your key elements here is how is it going to affect, as you were talking about it, you said what change management and how it's going to impact the people. So speak to that just for a moment. What are your thoughts on the people side of digital transformation?
Absolutely. So in my mind, especially being in IT for 20 plus years, as a technologist, I I often say technology is usually the last problem.
Yeah,
Um, because there are lots of technologies out there, and we could leverage many of the different technologies to do what we need to do. The biggest challenge usually is two things. One, to me, two things is identifying that right business problem, like I talked about earlier, so that we could contribute the value to the business. And then second piece is user adoption. Is once you deliver that technology, that enablement, are the people ready to use it? Are they willing to use it? Do they know how to use it? So at the end of the day, technology is not valuable unless it's being
right.
used by another machine or by a human. So that's why I always end up talking about people, because this is a business of people. We talk about digital transformation. Um, at the end of the day, it is very much focusing on how do we change the process, which is run by people and enabled by the technology. So one thing that I try to try to articulate what I mean by that is you could have a process of 10 steps and you could automate those 10 steps and you're going to get some value from that. But if you're able to maybe take a couple steps out or maybe switch around a couple steps and then put the technology on top, you might get even more value. That's my experience, is to actually either take steps out or rearrange them, or maybe put a new step in there that wasn't there before. And that is all about process and people. So we always lead with process and people in transformation projects, and then say, okay, what then is the requirement and the solution and the technology that we need to enable that? If we lead by technology, then there often I see a lot of resistance, or that's just not going to work for me. I don't know how to use that. I don't want to talk about that. So that's why people has always been front and center for me when it comes to digital transformation success.
That totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. I mean, and again, if anybody watches any of your work with me before, you always talk about the people side of things, and it totally makes sense. This has been a great interview. Is there any additional thoughts that you want to add?
I think one last thing that I may talk a little bit about is I do see that there's a difference between digital transformation and IT implementation. So,
right.
What I mean by that is, in my mind, when you say IT implementation, that talks about the delivery part
of some technology,
of something, of the technology or something. At least that's how when I hear that, that's what I hear. There's a lot of discovery in front of that or before that needs to be identified and vetted and really defined before we could even get there. So I think sometimes people miss that piece, the discovery piece, or they don't put enough time in that piece, and it makes the IT implementation very challenging. So I would give a tip that I would give people, what's the best thing, or what's one of the things that you think is really important in transformation is that discovery piece. So that's probably the last thing that I'll leave you with.
You mean discovering what the technology is and how it works and things like that? Just trying to...
discovery in terms of what is that business problem, what is the process today,
gotcha.
What is the future state, and then what are the pain points that the users are experiencing, and therefore prioritizing those problems and pain points that we want to fix. So that's what I mean by discovery.
That was that step that you talked about.
That's right.
Well, that's right. Wonderful. That was really great. A really great session. So thank you so much for being part of it. Let me just close it out. Again, everybody, this has been a great session with Elaine Cartier, who's Senior Director of Digital Transformation at Ciena, basically head of all digital transformation at Ciena. And you've done this at multiple companies before. And today we talked about a digital transformation framework. You did a terrific job with that. We really appreciate you being part of that. And so, Elaine, thank you so much for being part of this. So everybody, see all of our videos at technologyexecutivesclub.com. And if you go to our site, go to Board of Advisors, you'll see Elaine's page. And by the time you see this, you'll probably see, Elaine, all of your videos on your page. We're making that change now. So everybody could just go to your page and see everything you've done with us, which is wonderful. And also, if you go to YouTube or the podcast, it's under Technology Executives Review, and it's on Apple or Spotify, whatever you prefer. Go to our site, subscribe to our newsletter. And Elaine, thanks for being our speaker today, but also thanks for being part of our Board of Advisor program. We really appreciate you doing that. And the Board of Advisors, everybody, is the Board of Advisors to our technology community and a regular on what we call our digital media network. And if you're a technology leader, you're invited to have a complimentary spotlight interview. Elaine, you and I did one of those, right? And it was great. It's a 5 to 8 minute interview you can use on the featured part of your LinkedIn profile. We'll also put it through on our network, distribute our network. And during the process of working with me on that, it'll help you just a little with your executive brand. And if you're interested in that And if you're already connected with me, DM me, just reach out. If not, just book a discovery call on our site. So thanks again, Elaine Cartier. We appreciate you. Great job today, and appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Alex. Always appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation about digital transformation. So
And
thank you.
and,
Have a great day.
and twinning, and we can't wait to see the cool stuff. So thank you,
That's
everybody,
right.
for attending. It's our honor to serve you and your team.